Staying connected, the place for your spiritual rejuvenation.
Our first date after we began dating happened at church.
Oh, yes.
So I always wanted to my first date idea was very weird. I wanted to go on a mission field with my boyfriend for the first date. So it came out someone, yes, I'm strange, I don't mind. So with the first date, I went to church with Kevin for the first time at 10 City and Newland.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up wearing the same color, blue, without even planning.
Oh, yes.
And to be honest, I think I was a little bit nervous, but not so nervous. It kind of felt strange. And I was like saying, I'm going to meet the same Kevin I know for what, 5 or so years. So why is it that I'm feeling a little bit strange? But yeah, I felt a little bit strange to meet him again. When I saw him, he looked like a child that received that gift that he wanted all his life. He was so happy. I felt so greatly loved in that moment. And it was a beautiful experience going with him for the first time as his girlfriend to church.
Amen. And we had several of those moments together. I would cook for her.
Yes, and he cooks wonderfully. Yes.
Prepare a wonderful lunch for her and her family, and just getting to know them, just seeing the genuineness of the family, the realness. It was just further consolidating my thoughts, consolidating my plans. I won't tell you that I wanted to propose to her on the 4th day of our relationship. That's for another time and another place. I won't tell you that I wanted to propose 4 months later again. That's for another time and another place, because the truth is that's just who I am. I make decisions. I think thoroughly before I make my decisions. So I've assessed her family. I've been critical the whole time going through, and I've made up my mind. There was nothing about her that would surprise me, because one of the things I appreciate is, as we shared earlier, we got to know each other in a safe space. So all those times I got to see her in her element. We lived in the same house, separate apartments, of course, and separate divisions.
Upstairs, downstairs.
So that was good, but I got to see her in her element when she did not know or even imagine that I had any interest. So I knew this person. I knew what I was up against. I knew her inside out. Nobody could tell me anything. Not even her mother to this day can tell me anything that I don't know about Ocean. And one of the things I love about her too.
Before you tell them what you love, I must say thanks to my sister and my mother who made her first day wonderful. They got a table and they fixed the table really lovely too.
Nice champagne.
Yes, champagne, and we had the whole works. So I must say thanks to my sister Pooh, Chantel, and happy birthday, baby girl. I won't tell how old she is, but happy birthday. But it was on the 3rd of this month. And my mother, I love you greatly. You guys went all out just for our first date.
Yeah.
It was amazing. You made our memory wonderful. Go on, baby.
Thank you so much, lover girl. And so, as I was sharing, another thing that I loved and appreciated about my dear wife is that we were also able to be open. And that's one of the things that made me come to an early decision, if you may, because we didn't waste time in our conversations. And that's something I would also advise. You don't have to take it, but that's something I'd advise. Don't take the time having small talk. Use the conversations wisely. Get to know things that is meaningful. Don't just ask what's your favorite color, what's your favorite food and stuff like that. Get to share each other, share personally your background, so that based on this information, you can have an understanding of who you are dating. You can have an understanding, what is their mindset? What is their plans for the future? I asked her 5-year plan. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? She's asking me. So we know. And some of the things that came out is the conflicts. For example, I wanted to travel. she's not as much interested in traveling. So we had to sort that out before we moved forward. Who would go for their masters first? We didn't wait until we're going into counseling to deal with these things. We spent our conversations addressing these things because I have an intention. I'm not here for, and even though she used the term girlfriend, boyfriend, you understand, I was there saying, you are my wife. That's where I am moving towards. So if I'm going to marry you, I need to understand who you are. I wasn't wasting any time because I knew what I wanted. She knows what she wants, and we wanted to make it happen. So we had some beautiful times together.
To add to that, babe, become vulnerable too with that person you're courting. Tell them not only the good things about you, but tell them also things which you believe which you believe is, in accounts we call it material.
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker. So I shared everything with him. He shared everything with me. Even though something she wasn't comfortable with, or which I wasn't comfortable with, we shared that. And we dealt with those issues before marriage. Because if it's not dealt with, then it's going to happen or come out in marriage, and then they're going to find it's going to be too late to escape that. So become vulnerable with the person you're courting, because these things, it will determine the level of happiness you will have in your marriage. Yes.
And I'll jump on that again because I know persons are thinking, so you had such a wonderful time dating. We see how you were actually courting before you got into courting. So how did you get to the stage of becoming married? What was the engagement like? What was that whole story? I'll give her the opportunity to say what the engagement was like. But I'll only let you know that just as I wanted to propose maybe 2 or 3 times, I think it took me the 7th time. The 7th time before the proposal was actually successful for more than one reasons. I can tell you it was painfully amusing, but it did come to pass, and when it did, it was in the best way that I could have imagined. But I'll let her tell you how it was.
Oh yes, so we began in March, as you would have known, of 2019.
That's correct.
Yes, and proposal came in the same year. Now, if you all know me, I had a plan. I date for 7 years,
baby,
and then we'll get
baby,
married.
I'm gonna laugh with you. It's March of 2020.
No, baby.
March of 2019, I'm still in college.
Yes, 2020. Yeah, I keep on trying to get the dates correct. 2020 that we began. Thank you, my baby. Dating. So yes, he called me and wanted me to go with him to some place in Kingston.
Hope Gardens.
Hope Gardens. Yes. But yeah, I was late. So many things happened that morning. So many things happened. And when I arrived, it was just too late for us. It was supposed to be myself and Dylan and Kevin. I believe we were supposed to go to Oak Gardens. He had a wonderful...
And Dylan's girlfriend.
And Dylan's girlfriend, yes. Had a wonderful date planned for us. But I ended up arriving late. And then I don't know what happened, but I was in the car with him. He had before I get to this, he had my favorite fruit. He had grapes. Yes. So he had grapes. And yeah, we were eating grapes. And I saw where he just turned on the phone and put on our song, the one he made for me, and just jump on the seat and pop out a ring. And I was like, I was so shocked. I was nervous. I was afraid. I was trying to open the door to get out because this was just too much of an emotional experience for me. I was trying to escape. I was trying to leave that thing, but I know that my husband, Kevin, who don't know how to cry, he was almost in tears. He was there. He was there. He was in tears. It wasn't the tears come, but I heard it in his voice as he was talking to me about why he wanted to marry me, and in my mind, why does he have a ring? Where did the ring come from? We shouldn't have been here yet. I was trying to figure out everything. It was just an emotional rush for me that I really and truly struggled to handle. But I knew that I wanted to marry Kevin. I don't know how I stayed in that car because I had my hand on the thing to open to leave, but I stayed.
Love kept you. Love kept you.
And he spoke to me, and yeah, I wanted to cry. Yeah, I was at that place too, because I have waited all my life. I've been praying for such a long time. Been praying, not seeing anybody come, anybody getting married, and I'm left. And finally, the Lord sent me somebody who was just like him. It was too much, and yeah, He brought me to tears. Yes, I accepted. I accepted, and here we are today.
So that was the...
Oh, and then he popped out a champagne, and it was my favorite champagne, mercifully, my favorite champagne, and I think I left, and I went inside to tell them who knew before I knew that he had a ring to propose to me. So it wasn't even a surprise for them because they knew everything, and I was in the dark about it.
After seven times, I was done waiting. I can tell you, I came up with so much gymnastics to hide that ring. We ordered it from overseas. So it was so much gymnastics to keep it from her because, funny enough, every single thing that I planned, she finds some way to find out.
Oh,
I don't know how she does it.
Except this one.
No matter how we planned the honeymoon, we planned so many things, and she still finds out.
Oh, yes.
So I had to go through a whole hoax. It was like I was a drug dealer trying to smuggle something. But that time I said to myself, listen, no more hide and seek. We're going to get this done. We're going to keep the moment beautiful. It was in our car. But I can tell you that car was transformed into a beautiful place. Turned on some nice AC, keep her cool. Nice music playing in the background. And then, and what I loved about the moment too is that it was genuine. Because maybe if I had gotten the chance to plan it how I'd like, I would put on my usual costume and go about it that way. But I think that way it was genuine. I didn't get a chance to plan it, so I could only speak from my heart.
I knew it was because anybody who knows Kevin, that Kevin don't know how to cry. All of that time I've never seen this much of a tear. It doesn't get all that emotional, but in that car, that's one of the reasons why I was so afraid, because it was my first time experiencing him in this deeply emotional way, and that just strung on my heartstrings.
Amen. And so from then on, was not long after I'd already planned it. I told her that from maybe the fourth day I could tell her that I'm here to stay. We had many a tough moments. So love by God's design doesn't mean that it will be pitch perfect. We could barely count rather the days that we didn't have a major argument.
Oh yes.
That we didn't have some reason. Maybe about 10 times she told me it was off.
Oh yes.
We're being honest.
Even before he proposed, there were a number of times I said to him, you know what? This is it. We ain't going to go no further. It's done. But what was amazing is that we never ever ended the day on that same note of us being angry or upset at each other. We always make up with a poem or a song or something to just seal the deal off. And during our time of dating, I must say this so that my husband was really creative. We had this thing where we wrote letters to each other. So it was like every morning we wrote a letter to each other. Yes. We had poems. We had songs, and he does, what do we call that, baby? It's like a rap thing. Dub poetry. Like a rap thing. It's beautiful for me. I love them, and I have them still with me. And whenever there are times I say to him, do this one for me, because I had one of my favorites of them. So we kept it real. We kept it interesting. But then again, now we are engaged. We had counseling too, with the best marriage counselor and marriage officer, the late
Dr. Newton Yupanton Cleghorn.
And when my husband, when we were asking who would use to do that, to be honest with you, I didn't have many options. I have had, I won't even go there. So we didn't have many options of person who we thought would have been the best, because we're seeking a particular person. somebody whose marriage was what we would have hoped to have then. Somebody who really understood what God really meant when he spoke about marriage between the person becoming one. Somebody whose own home was intact. So there weren't many persons on that list that we had. And when my husband, Dr. Clegorn, and I went to ask Mrs. Scott or Mrs. Hartley about this man, I got nervous because this man is a hard man. This man is too real. So, but after a while, and in my first time talking to him too, merciful Savior.
Oh, shame.
Yes. So I knew he was 100% the right person. And at the end of first session, he gave us almost 100% because he said that there was room for improvement. He was really impressed, he said, with both of us, our level of maturity, and we would have reached. Because, as I said before, even before we knew it, God was behind the scene fixing each of us for each other. So what he got was the almost finished product of what God was doing without us recognizing.
And I heard Baby mention that I did some poems for her, and somebody may be wondering, really, Pastor can do poems too? And she did hers in the first part, so I'm going to share one. And I'd say to the gentlemen especially, try to be creative. You may not be able to do poetry, but try to do something that will keep that spur alive, and that will just help you to express your thoughts. And so one of those that I wrote for her that she really likes is this one. You said you love me for the longest time, but loving you with my whole heart was my first crime. Yes, you see, you've been playing with my mind. I couldn't see you're the one who should share my bloodline. I'm loving you even more, even as I reminisce to hear your voice and see your face. I'm dreaming of our first kiss, but I gotta wait, cause I ain't gonna spoil this, cause I'll sure be your prince and you gonna be my little miss. Hey, I know you're scared to tell the truth, I'm scared too, but this one thing is for sure, is that I never hurt you, cause love is kind, it's a journey meant for two. So let's just God and take my hand, and in time we'll say I do.
And we did say we do.
Love you, baby. So those are some of the ways you can help. And remember, as marriage officers and those who are experienced will tell you, what you have in courtship is what you'll carry over into marriage. So try to make, and remember that marriage doesn't end your courtship or your dating, it's just an extension. So continue to keep that spark, that love alive, that creativity, that's something, that fire, that flame that will always make the experience one to smile about and one that will continue to stimulate love. And if you know anything about your partner, as you should know, is that women in general like to be approved. They like when you affirm them. And I can tell you that it works well in return.
Yes, so you ought to know your partner's love language. Because you might give them a gift, but what I really wanted was just you to say, I love you, you're beautiful. Yes, so
I love you, you're beautiful.
Te amo, baby, te amo. So you have to know your partner like that. And we got to know all of that during marriage, because my husband is the kind of person who loves to be affirmed. So while he will appreciate gifts, he does, but when you give him that affirmation, it goes a long way with him. So your partner's personality type, etc. Also too, where we went? Yes, we got engaged, got counseling, preparing now for marriage. And that was a journey. Anyone who got married, you know that whole planning thing. I didn't have a lot of time to plan my wedding any at all.
So our wedding, we invested so much in planning.
Oh yes.
But you see, love by God's design means that the enemy will try whatever he can to spoil your day. I've never seen rain fall like that before.
Oh no.
It was like a Category 5 hurricane.
Our baby, a Euroclydon that happened in Paul Day when Paul was on his way to Rome. That's what happened on our wedding day.
Mercy. But you see, God turned it around to be so beautiful. He opened a way at Otrius SDS. It was already decorated, beautifully done. We had a wonderful time. The late Dr. Clegorn and Sister Clegorn, very appreciative of your ministry. And what was a storm became a beautiful calm as God just allowed us to enjoy sweetness together. And for those who patiently waited with us, I know you were blessed as you enjoyed the day's program. Loved by God's design. It was.
So it wasn't according to how we planned it. And to tell the truth, I was very discouraged. I was really hurt by all that was taking place. I prepared myself into a week, face mask and all those things, and I had to be on the spot where we're supposed to have the wedding. I had to be there trying to get things done as well. And it wasn't easy. So it wasn't what we had planned. But it turned out to be what God had planned, because we were going for an outdoor wedding when God was saying, you're going to the church before me.
That's
and
right.
So, and when we got the church, I kid you not, that day that we had a storm in Ochi where it kind of like go flood and all those things, it actually flooded, and we had flooding. When we got the church confirmed, we had bright sun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sunny afternoon.
That's right.
So obviously, the outdoor thing wasn't God's plan. So when we went on his plan, that's when he gave us the sunshine of his approval.
I can tell you, if you were at our wedding after the storm, you would not believe that there was a storm before. You would not believe, because they stood by us, they stood with us, and after the storm, we had a beautiful calm and a wonderful wedding. And I praise God for it.
Not only we have rain, but we had issue with our wedding planner as well. And the person who was supposed to be a photographer also failed us. So we
many
had
challenges.
a number of difficulties on that day that could have caused us not to go forward. But I'm happy that we did, because our lives, as what I would have known, we have always had things difficult. We never had anything easy. That big step that we're making would not have been easy either. But I'm happy because the best thing happened. I got my husband, and then that was another opening again for another thing, baby. After marriage came storms too. Because when the honeymoon finished, I was sick.
But you see, that's love by God's design. It doesn't mean that there won't be challenges and trials and upsets. It just means that your upsets, God will turn them into your blessing. And step after step, the storm that came only allowed us to transition from outdoor, where it wasn't as according to God's plan, into the church where it was beautiful. Again, the rain and everything that stormed us, the family stepped in and it showed the level of support and love that we had. Afterwards, with the honeymoon, the cake, they put in alcohol, even though we asked them not to, but it only made it better as we turned things around and had it beautiful, because other persons would have sent us cakes, so we got to enjoy those blessings.
We actually disposed of our wedding cake, so we didn't have a wedding cake any at all, but my aunt would have made a cake for us, and we had to use that cake. So God is good. God has been really great to us, and the next time we'll share with you what happened after we finished the honeymoon. But that's it on Love by
God's Design.
See you next time.
We're gonna stay connected to Jesus today. Amidst the struggles, we're gonna hold on without delay. Stand firm upon his promise.